Hey, good morning everyone, and I just wanted to be able to make this uh, video to supplement the in-class things in case anybody is absent or needs to go back and review something that I said. So it's going to be picture-in-picture most of it, so my little face will be smaller, but I just wanted to put me in here. There's a green screen behind me for when I use Zoom, but it's not working with this Screencast-O-Matic. There's probably settings in the paid version, but I'm using the free version. And again, just so you know, I'm using Screencast-O-Matic. Screencastify, for some reason, is not working on my computer, so I'm using Screencast-O-Matic. If anybody wants to go and check them out, uh, they have a free version and they have a paid version. The free version lets you record up to 15 minutes, and it gives you limited options, but it gets the job done. So today's focus in class is about anger and anger control. We're really just going to do an introduction part to anger today, a review of core content that should have been taught in a different class. But on the main web page, you go down, you click health. Of course, you can also use the navigation window at the top. So actually, let me do it that way today. So instead of going to the health page first, let's go directly to the unit page. So I hover over health. I click on the down arrow for mental and emotional health. I click on emotions and feelings because we all know that anger is one of the essential emotions, the most important ones. Dr. Plutchnik talked about that starting in 1997. There's been a lot of theory. It's even one of the emotions for the movie Inside Out. So just putting that out there. So and anyway, on the top there's a table of contents. You could just scroll down, but it's easier for most of you if you just click on the link that says special emphasis anger control. Okay, so along with anger control, there's a few things that we have to recognize, and I'm not going to read it word for word, but I'm going to click this down arrow that you can go and read on your own. And basically what this thing is saying, and I'm going to even cover it most of the time just so that you can see it. Basically what it's saying is that we all have our anger triggers. We all have the things that are going to go and affect us and bring out the emotion of anger. It's going to make us mad. It's going to make us angry. It's going to make us irritated. It's going to make us agitated. And we all have anger triggers. And anger in itself is not bad. It's not wrong. It's what you do with the anger which makes a difference. In fact, some anger is actually justified. And that's important to be able to understand. Sometimes anger is an internal issue, and other times it's caused by external stimuli. So we're going to look at a chart, and this chart, I'll blow it up. This chart basically talks to you about the reaction versus responding of anger. So something happens, it causes anger to come out and invokes anger in you. It makes you mad, it makes you angry, whatever the type of things. If you respond, then you stop. You pause and you make yourself a plan. That goes into an action. So it's kind of like a timeout. And even though this is very simplistic elementary school examples, it's kind of like when we say, take a walk, go take a deep breath, go count to 10 or count to whatever. Like, go do something to remove yourself from the trigger, the stimuli that's causing you to be angry. Pause and think about a plan. What am I going to do? And that relates into an action. And that action should be constructive. It should be productive. So that action leads to consequences, and then that has constructive results. And that constructive results then asks you to ask a question. Did you learn from your experience? Do you dwell on the anger trigger, or do you repeat the same mistake again? If we react to an anger, that's almost like a reflex. It's real quick. That is usually out of rage. Rage is also an action or leads to other actions, like, for example, breaking things or yelling at someone or hurting someone's feelings. Intentionally, even though later on you might feel bad about it. Throwing things, getting into a fight, violence of some other form that I'm just not going to mention on this video, but you get the idea. It leads to hate, and it leads to damaging things. So the consequences are that there's damage or destruction. And that can be physical damage or destruction, where someone or something is physically hurt, or it can be emotional damage where you really make somebody feel bad or feel down, or or even worse, that there's some sort of emotional trauma, such as the results of ongoing harassment or bullying. Um, there's so many things going on in the world around us, and even though we look at it and we say how bad it is and how divided it is right now over um, different issues going on, it has been bad for a while, because a lot of times people do not deal with anger efficiently. And I myself also have mistakes with this sometimes. Everybody loses their cool, everybody loses their temper, and there's certain things that are just our anger triggers that just push our buttons. And we have to learn how to control the anger. We don't want to eliminate it. So anger in itself, not wrong, but what we do with the anger, that can be wrong. So we have to go back and ask ourselves a couple more serious questions, which for all intents and purposes are just highlighted right there. And the bigger questions to ask yourself are, do I have a right to get angry right now? And if the answer is yes, then do I have a right to act the way I'm acting right now because I'm angry? And that's a really deep question, because you might have a right to be upset, and you might have a right to act a certain way, but is what you're doing hurting someone else? Are you making yourself feel better just because you're hurting someone else? How will my actions harm someone else? And what may be the consequences of my actions if I react rather than I respond? A typical example of these questions that oftentimes get overlooked is like an authority figure, especially parents, for example, when they get angry. If a parent reacts, then they're going to say things or do things that are going to be harmful to their child, and in the short term and the long run, and might not be productive. But if a parent is angry and they yell at their child for something, and that yelling of the child at that moment is in correction with love, which is difficult to understand unless you are able to actually do it, then that can be productive. That can go into change. And it's the same thing with you, with your friends. If you have a friend or a best friend or a significant other and they do something that makes you angry, if you react to it right away, there may be a fight, or there may be an argument, or there may be a breaking of that relationship, because what you're doing to make yourself feel better is hurting someone else. But if there's not, then you might be able, even though it might be hard, to be able to get past it. You might be able to respond, let them know what they did that made you angry and why it made you angry. And they might not have meant it, but if you attack, then they're going to go into defensive right away. So that was a quick thing about explaining anger. I do want to go and share some other things on the website for you. And I don't know why this is not getting smaller. I want to go and share some other things on the website for you. Now, this was a whole website about emotions and feelings. So if for some reason you're stumbling upon this and you're not actually in my class, we've already talked about the difference between emotions, feelings, and expressions. You can see this slideshow to get a quick review of something that should have been taught in 5th or 6th grade, or expand this text to be able to read a little bit about it. You can see these graphics. They're also in the slideshow, or at least this one is. You can see the quotes that I share with the class. It's okay to not be okay, and we should be allowed to fall apart sometimes. This is all about all emotions and feelings. This is a mood meter that I took from a New York Public School 120's athletic website. I don't know exactly where they got it. There's also a video explaining it from Vimeo. You might want to check it out. If you go to Rush or you go to any school district school, this graphic or a similar one has been used in the morning meetings earlier this year. And then there's a little quote from Dolly Parton: the way I see it, if you want the rainbow, you got to put up with the rain. But so that's about emotions in general. There's a couple articles, and then there's a lot of good feature videos talking about other emotions and feelings, and how sometimes unpleasant feelings and emotions are essential. There's some focus on sadness from Inside Out, and a commentary about sadness from Inside Out. I won't give away spoilers if you've never seen it. And there's a talk about how laughter is actually used as good medicine for emotional pain. Then there's a special focus on fear. Not too long, just a short little special focus on fear with an article to go along with it. And then everything that we talked about today with anger. So you can get this graphic, you can make it bigger and save it. You can go and talk about how anger also activates the fight or flight response, just like the stressors do. And we'll talk about the stressors next week in class. And this arrow will look like that. You can expand the arrow to read the detailed version of everything that that I just said in this video. It was much shorter than what I put on the website. But then there's featured videos about anger. And there's some really good ones. The science of anger, what's going on inside your body, how the brain works with anger. There's a cute little snippet that I show at the beginning of class about getting to know your emotions, anger. And then I say it's important to understand what your anger triggers are. Anger is your ally. Anger management for kids and adults. So it kind of like differentiates. And then a little one, anger is okay, violence is not. It's made for little children. It's basically a paper plate children's book on the prevention of domestic violence stemming from anger. So it's really, really important to get your ideas and your feelings in touch with all emotions and feelings so that you can understand how to be able to handle them, and in some cases control them so that they don't control you. And anger is one of those. You want to be able to control anger, not let anger control you. We're all going to digress. We're all going to fall apart sometimes. We're all going to have those moments where we make mistakes, but we should try not to. Okay? If you have any other questions, please send me an email, and I'll see you in class. Bye.